Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers. And with me, as always, is my tag team partner, a man who knows this essential truth. Never, under any circumstances, trust Christian Slater if you're in a movie. The Macho Man Drew.
Andrew Lano. I mean, you could argue don't trust him in life. I don't know him personally, but he's got that face.
I would imagine... he definitely does have a rogue bad boy face. But I was mostly thinking of like this and True Romance, and then what was the name of that Nintendo movie we did where he kept getting into shenanigans with his dad while they were chasing
The Wizard.
Brother. The Wizard. Yeah.
He also was one of sorry to derail. He was one of like four big name celebrities in this random sort of indie movie about a gay porn producer who got murdered. He played the gay porn producer. It was very interesting.
Interesting. Is that recent?
Yeah, it's called King Cobra. It came out like last year or so.
Interesting. Well, we're talking about Christian Slater because we watched Heathers, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your red scrunchie. Something's gotta be done about your red scrunchie.
When the Mega Powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega Powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
And we'll say right off the top, just as a quick warning, we don't typically do this on the show, but this obviously involves violence, not necessarily in a school, but around a school and kind of sort of in a school. So if that's something you don't want to listen to right now, I totally get it. So we're obviously going to keep doing our same normal show here. We wanted to talk about, Andrew's been asking to do this movie since we started doing the show. So this is like a 4-year long request, and the new television show is coming out. So let's just get into Heathers.
Sure thing. Well, this is one of my favorite movies. Just we're going to say that off the bat, as I've made known throughout the show. You've actually never seen it the whole way through, right?
No, I hope we can still be brothers after this episode is all I'm saying.
God, I hope so. If this is going to be our first fight podcast.
It's just going to be two angry people sniping at each other. It's on Netflix, and I had previously tried to watch it some years back, also on Netflix. And I gave up about 45 minutes into it, which is honestly about the same place I wanted to stop watching it this time. I didn't, obviously, but it was like the exact same spot in the movie that I was like, ugh. And I took a break and I washed some dishes for a while and I came back to it.
It's also available on Hulu.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
That would be in both places. So yeah, either any streaming network apparently has Heathers. It's just on all the networks.
Oh, and Paramount Network is also showing it to tie in with the show. So it's available.
Yes,
like you can find it.
So we're playing croquet, not cricket, and we're listening to Que Sera Sera.
Yo, it's just I don't know. The opening of this movie gets me every time. It just like it perfectly sets the tone for the whole movie.
See. This is my exact beef with it, is like this movie says it's a dark comedy, but it doesn't do anything funny when the funny when the stuff is supposed to be like ironically funny, it's not funny.
Oh yeah,
like,
I laughed so much at this movie.
It's not like that is ghastly to me. Like I'm not joking.
I find this movie
that is
so
kind of scary
funny
to me that you find this stuff. Yeah, like when I think like black comedy, people getting murdered, I went like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, where it's like real Scooby-Dooey Three Stooges, but it's like splat stick and stuff. Or like to me, a black comedy about death is Better Off Dead, where he's constantly trying to kill himself. And we did an episode about that back. He tries to kill himself like repeatedly, but he always gets foiled in the funniest way. Like he's like thinking about hanging himself, and then his mom opens the door and she accidentally makes him hang himself, and then he like has a panic attack about it. I think the biggest difference in those movies, because they're both 80s movies, they're both kind of dark comedies about death. The music in this is not funny. The music in this is serious always, and that's what throws me off. Like I don't know how to read the movie, I think.
Okay, I can see that. It definitely has a more melancholic music tone. But I don't know. To me, it's just it is a razor sharp pitch black comedy that is very to me. I acknowledge that it walks a very thin tightrope and could easily dip into like bad, but to me always kind of falls on the side of funny as in pointing out things that we don't like to talk about as a society, like how when someone dies, they're the best person in the world. Like no one ever speaks ill of the dead.
Right.
And like little things like that, they're like, oh, that's totally true. That like every funeral is like they were the best. No, they weren't. Some people are just shitheads, and like, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get that. There was just something, like, there's a few scenes in this movie that are, like, hyper absurd and ridiculous, particularly at the end where, like, she's smoking the cigarette, and then there's the big finale, and then she looks like Bugs Bunny after Bugs Bunny gets blown up, and, like, that's really funny, but the music in this scene is, like, a really sad piano music, and so it's like, well, I need you to lean into the Bugs Bunny if you're gonna do Bugs Bunny. Like, I get that is funny, and I get the bit you're doing of like this is what all of this is absurd, but just the music underneath it with like even this opening with it's like a really sad version of Que Sera Sera, and like it's a real mopey whatever will be will be. It's like a really kind of bummer tone. I don't know.
To me,
I find this movie genuinely kind of difficult. So anyway, let's talk about the so they're playing croquet in the backyard. Let's get into the movie. We've gone 10 minutes without talking about the plot of the movie.
And
so
immediately they establish all the three girls who are named Heather all say Heather interchangeably. Like, Heather, it's your turn. No, Heather, it's Heather's turn. And there is zero intonation difference, there's zero pronunciation difference or inflection, and yet they always know exactly who they're talking about. And to me, it's just the most beautiful, like, encapsulation of, like, high school clique. Of, like, yeah, they're all so in sync because they're all scared of each other.
From what I have seen in both your life and in media representations of gay culture, it's a lot cattier than any any personal life experience.
Yes. And
so I wonder if that's where this resonates with you, because I made fun of my friends a lot, and I still do, and we make fun of each other, but it's in like hey buddy, like real, like there's a love underneath it. And when I see this, they don't seem to love each other. They seem to hate each other. And it's like, I just don't relate to it at all.
So we, as queer people that I know,
I've heard you around your friends, and it's the same tone that I'm describing with the love in it. But like, I don't know, maybe like larger circle, it's different that I don't know about. But yeah, the cattiness, I just don't relate to at all.
It is because we take a lot from pop culture and stuff. So like, we'll use lines from this movie, but like we have the understanding that like telling my friend to shut up, Heather. Like, we know that there's, like, we can say it, like, nastily, but we know that we have the understanding that there is the love underneath of it. Like, in my phone, like, no joke, in my phone right now, I have a group chat that's called The Heathers, and it's me and three of my best friends. We are The Heathers. I'm Heather Chandler, and then we have Duke, Mac, and Veronica. I also have other friend groups where we are collectively The Heathers and trade off who is who. It's just, I don't know, it's just a sort of a pillar, I guess.
But do you think these characters like each other in the movie?
I think
this is going to be the weirdest episode of this podcast we've ever done. I think it's going to be a very unusual tone, because like, you love this movie so much.
I do.
And I can't think of many examples of movies where it's like, you absolutely love it or I absolutely love it, and the other person just straight up dislike. I really do not like this movie. And it's like, I get what it's trying to do. It just doesn't land for me. So I don't like hate it. It's
you would
like,
probably
there's things
like
about
the
this
musical
movie
better.
that are good, and I like them, maybe. But it's interesting. Like, I almost want to like spend an hour talking to you about the movie rather than like doing our normal thing, because like, it's so fascinating to me to be this far apart. Because it's just, I genuinely cannot think of another example of a movie that one of us is like a 10 and the other one is like a 3 at best, or a 2. Like, yeah, just very, very opposite in tone.
They don't like each other though, but that's part of it. Like, the whole, to me, this movie, it's very much, you know, it captures the heightened sense of what high school feels like. When like, this is the only important time in my life, and you know, this is all that matters. And then you turn 19 and you go, wait a minute, what? But while you're in high school, everything has that like high stakes, stupid, like, Daddy, I love him nonsense. Like,
Right. No, I totally get that. Yeah. I will also say that this movie reminds me a lot of another movie that you're going to be excited to hear is directed by Bobcat Goldthwait. I believe it's called God Bless America, and it's about. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's about a guy
he kills people, right?
who. Yes, yeah, it's similar in tone to this, wherein he goes after, like, he hates American Idol basically, and he goes around the country like enacting revenge or vengeance on people that he feels are stupid, and so you ride along with this character on this psychotic mission for the whole movie. And so the first like 45 minutes to an hour of Heathers is really that you're along for this sort of Bonnie and Clyde thing with Winona Ryder and Christian Slater. And it's just like not a ride I enjoyed being on. I think being a big part of this is like, I just don't want to hang out with these people. Like, I just don't like these people. They're bad people that I'm hanging out with. And it's weird too, because I've loved anti-heroes. You know, I loved Breaking Bad, and I was like, I didn't want Walter White to like win, but I was like, I recognize that character is bad and evil, but I liked rooting for him as this smart guy, you know, getting his way out of things. I don't know. It's weird to me.
I don't think you're
like
supposed to like Christian. Like, Christian Slater's character is not an anti-hero. He's just a villain. Winona Ryder is the only one I would classify as an anti-hero.
Yeah, she has that like moment. Anyway, all right, we'll just talk about the movie, and we'll go through the plot, and then we'll talk about these things all instead of all at once, because we have a format on this podcast and we should stick to it. So they're playing croquet. They go inside, and Winona Ryder, we learn, can mimic anybody's handwriting like a superhero, I guess.
That's her shtick,
and so
yeah.
she forges a note from
Ram Sweeney to
they're in the lunchroom, sorry, right? Or they
yes, lunchroom. They need a note from Ram Sweeney to Martha Dunstock, who's the fat girl and gets called Martha Dump Truck. And there's so many like little iconic moments in this movie for me, and like one of the big ones is, you'll need something to write on, Heather, bend over. And just the like scalpel, like military commander control she has over her troops is just hilarious to me.
Yeah, I almost like, if you took this exact same movie and then like let Mel Brooks's team do the editing, I feel like I would be way more into the black comedy. It's just, there's like an integral piece of it missing, and I don't know I don't know if it's
music.
Like I mentioned, it's music, but I don't know if it's just the music. Yeah, but it could be other things too. Like, there's just something about this setup that I'm like, it just doesn't click for me. It just doesn't land. But yes, I'm with you. Like, the joke is funny that she's like, bend over, and she just like snaps and bends over, and immediately she starts writing on her back, as if this is the most normal thing for friends to do.
Yeah.
Also, this is the, like, of the many weirdly lit scenes in this movie, this one is perhaps the craziest. There's so much light coming in the windows from outside that this school has to be on the actual surface of the sun. It looks like in the Terminator movies when they do the explosions and like the wall, all the windows go white and then it just like vaporizes you. This is just before you get vaporized. There's so much light on these windows. There must have been 10 spotlights outside each of these windows to get this effect, because it's like,
I don't know.
It looks like a prison.
They're like floor to ceiling windows. They're very tall floor to ceiling windows, though.
Yeah, but they're definitely strategically lit to create this effect of like, it sort of makes the space feel confined and small, even though it's a large room, because there's just like all of the light coming in the window. They also do these really extreme close-ups with a fisheye lens of the Heathers and Veronica writing this note, and then the football player, and then the heavier girl. There's these like really tight push-in close-ups with a fisheye lens, and it was giving me like real anxiety watching this scene of just this is like, whoa. It's like, all right, I get it.
You don't, though, because you don't like it.
It's not that. Yes, but I mean, I get it. Is like, I get the effect you're intending. So this poor girl gets this note, and this is a staple in high school movies, and we've talked about it on the show before, and it's still in movies today. But it really drives me bananas when characters are this stupid. Like, I was in high school. If the most attractive woman in school passed me a note that was like, I'm secretly way into you, I would know that was not real. I would know that. Like, I've always been a big dude. I wasn't like Joe Popular, but I was probably somewhere in the middle in the high school pantheon. I don't know where I'd be now with the school rankings are way different than they were when I was in high school. But, like, I wasn't in the bottom, but I was not at the top. And if one of the people at the top was like, oh, my God, Trip, I have to have you, I would know that was fake. I would just know that was fake. And I feel so bad for this girl, but also, like, you should know this dude's not into you.
Yeah, so there's a musical version of Heathers. It explores things that the movie doesn't. One of them explains why that note is believable to Martha. They had a hit, like when they were little kids, they kissed on the kickball field, and it's like always stuck with her.
I see.
So there's like little gaps that the musical filled in that I enjoy.
I see. Yes. Okay, that makes more sense.
It also explains why.
But of course,
Veronica
she walks
hangs
over
out
and
with
gets
them.
absolutely humiliated. Oh yeah, that doesn't really ever get.
Yeah,
explained
it
in
always.
this movie.
That's my biggest complaint with this movie is I'm like, why is Veronica their friend? There's no like that doesn't make sense. Like in Mean Girls, you see what like Katie get pulled into the plastics, and like other versions of this, you see that happen. It's part of the plot. This movie just picks up after she's part of it, and you're like, wait a minute, why?
There is a line where the main Heather says something like,
Chandler.
"Oh, you know, I pulled you out of obscurity" or something like that. Like she was grooming her to be part of the team.
Yeah. So it's like referenced but never fully explained.
Yeah. Anyway, the poor girl gets humiliated in front of the whole school in the cafeteria, of course, because this jock dude doesn't want anything to do with this heavy nerdy girl.
Mm-hmm. There's also
we also get a really entertaining montage because it's the 80s and it's the 80s cliques where they like zoom around the room to all the different cliques where they
I was
go
just
to the
gonna say
nerd
that.
table and they go to the jock table and they go to the I did enjoy that bit of it quite a bit.
and the costuming in this movie is so good because like every clique has a very clear uniform that they all wear. Like the jocks all wear their Letterman jackets, and you know the nerds wear weird colors, and the preppy people wear stripes. The Heathers all dressed like working girl.
Yeah.
So you're like you see someone and you know exactly.
Also,
who
Christian
they are.
Slater, right? Which we've talked about before in these movies that we watch. Like, we need you to be more on the nose about what's going on here. Mm-hmm. There's also a weird moment too, because as far as we know in the movie, she and Christian Slater don't really know each other until after this scene. But he's like watching this whole thing unfold, where she like writes a note, and then this poor girl getting harassed. And he like reacts as if he's personally offended that Veronica did this, as if she's an old friend and this is out of character for her, which I thought was going to be something we explore until he walks up to her and is like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Christian Slater." And it's like, wait, you don't know this girl? You're just being like, "Ugh, what an idiot."
To me, it seemed like the kind of this is like his first day in the new school, essentially. To me, it always felt like he could tell she wasn't really a part of this popular clique, and clearly this is the popular clique. So like, oh, you seem like the artsy girl, and why are you going along with this shithead stuff?
Right.
Because Veronica very much is like the artsy high school kid who is desperately trying to be the most interesting person in the room that a lot of me and my friends did, and like still do sometimes. I know people.
Yeah, no, I think her character is very well written and it's interesting, and I totally buy why somebody in her situation in life gets sucked in by this wackadoodle monster guy. All of that totally jives for me. It's just that the tone of the movie is like, I feel like there's a Heather's cut that's more straight-laced that I enjoy more than the one that we watched, which is this like sort of half black comedy. Because like I said, it just doesn't land for me a lot of the stuff. So the like creepy psycho pulling some innocent into his web of nonsense is actually more like what God Bless America is about, and I found that less uncomfortable than this, which is still trying to do comedy while it does that. But anyway, next is the question bit, right, where they're doing the survey in the lunchroom.
The lunchtime poll for the school paper. It's never really established what it's for.
Yeah, they don't ever say what it's for.
They ask a question to everyone in the lunchroom, and everyone meaning the popular people that Heather Chandler deems worthy to be asked. And then they open it up to the boring people per Veronica's request, and Heather's like, "This is stupid. They're stupid."
Right. And what was the question they asked in the first one? Do you remember?
Yeah,
I'm sure you do.
You get $5 million from Ed McMahon, and then right after aliens land and say they're going to blow up the world in 2 days. It's basically, if you had $5 million that only lasted 2 days, what would you do?
Yeah. So we get a bunch of people answering this question in all sorts of, semi-gross ways.
It's what you'd expect from the archetypes and stereotypes of a high school movie.
Exactly. Yeah. Terrible high school. Yeah. They also start. Well, I guess they start from the very beginning of this movie, but their particular type of slang of just randomly shortening words is just makes me feel 150 years old, and I want them to get off my lawn. It's very.
I love very.
It's very what? There's so many words that could go after that. I don't know what you mean. It's so very what? And it don't even give me an indication on good or bad. What are you talking about, you young weirdos?
I love very.
But the most egregious one is, I know, and I always find it off-putting. Because it's hard to tell sometimes what you mean. But the worst one is when she asks what kind of corn nuts she wants, and her answer is to say BQ. You're only saving one consonant sound, Veronica or Heather or whomever.
Yeah, no, Veronica asks BQ or plain. So Veronica sets that up.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if corn nuts, if that was what the flavor was called. Like how we have Cool Ranch instead of just ranch.
I don't know.
It's BQ.
Wouldn't BQ just be confusing to people in a world where we know what BBQing is?
It was the 80s. There was a lot of cocaine.
It was a different time. It was a different time.
So yeah, they have
also Winona Ryder drinking a 64-ounce slushie is the funniest prop comedy that has ever had.
I love those giant props.
In this movie, she weighs 94 pounds in 1988, and she's holding a slushie the size of her actual human head.
It's great. So we cut to JD.
Christian Slater.
Yeah, sorry. JD pulls a gun on the jocks after they call him the F word that rhymes with maggot that's pervasive in these movies. And he calls them assholes in response. And when they ask him what he said, he pulls out a gun and shoots blanks at them.
Yeah, and everybody is just very chill with this turn of events. It's not a big deal that his kid pulled a gun and tried to shoot two students. Everybody's just very cool with it.
But that's part of the absurdism of the movie, I find. The whole, surface level, shallow nonsense. No one ever pays attention to what's actually important about anything. They just, pick a surface level thing and stick there.
Right. But, I feel like the instead of it being blanks and they cut the movie to make you think he actually shot those guys, is I want the bang flag from the Joker's gun. Okay,
that would have been fun too.
I need it to be 50% more or 25% more ridiculous, because the way that it's cut, it's bang bang, black screen, and you're like, holy shit, he just shot two people.
And then you find out he didn't.
And then they're like, yeah, exactly. It's weirdly edited to be a black comedy to me. But anyway, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna try to stop doing that.
Your motto.
I'm sorry.
For the
I know
episode?
I keep doing it, and it's I just don't want to do that for a whole episode. So I'm gonna try not to do that. But that is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, and I feel like I've illustrated that point now, and I'm gonna stop. I'm sorry to everybody listening.
And so we cut to the Heathers playing croquet after school, and this is, I guess, the first instance where you realize their color is important, because it hasn't been talked about. It's been shown very clearly they each have their color, but up until now it's not been spoken about. And then you realize oh, Heather Chandler is always red because she's the powerful one. Heather Duke is always green because she's the envious one. Heather McNamara has no spine, so she's the yellow one.
Yeah, I did not catch that, but that is obvious use of color. Well done.
Mm-hmm. And there's confusing Heather's croquet rules.
Right, just made up by the
because
I
googled. I was like, what are the rules of is this a rule in croquet? And people were like, yeah, in Heather's they added a weird rule where if you hit someone's ball, you get the chance to hit it as hard as you can out, which isn't a thing anywhere that I found.
Yeah, I've never seen that before either, but it's definitely a thing here.
You were saying?
This is after croquet, we get the first instance of a running joke throughout the movie, which I really did is the parents who are clearly not even remotely listening to what their daughter is saying. Winona Ryder ends up sitting down with them for 10 seconds. And this is family mealtime. Is she sits down and she takes a single bite of pate. They say something to her, clearly not listening to whatever she just said. And she says, great pate, but I got a split. And it happens 4 times in the movie where it's just great pate, got a split.
But I got a motor.
And I did that is the, yeah. That was more what I was expecting the tone of the movie to be. The completely aloof, out of touch parents and the nonsense of them eating this ridiculously fancy food and having this ridiculous house, but also they just don't care about their kid at all. Yay!
Yeah, but that's the sort of their whole thing, which I like, especially the whole how he's
No, they're great. That part of like, yeah,
no. Why do I do this? Because you're an idiot. Oh, you too.
yeah.
So this is where we get the scene that clearly is supposed to be a 7-Eleven, but isn't.
It's just a local convenience store.
No, it's not local though, because it's like a nationwide chain.
Yes, I'm sorry. I meant like they're just at the nearest convenience
Okay,
store.
yes. I was like, no, it's not like
you are. I said
Joe
the wrong
Schmo.
thing, but that's it's not like Jerry's Snack Hut. It's just like the local 7-Eleven. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
You kids want slushies? I got purple, green, orange. What do you want?
He slides the thing up. There's slushies that don't have the domed lid, which is very weird to me. Like, you are not maximizing your slushie potential.
Absolutely not. It's like 10% failure rate there.
Yeah, no, thank you. And this is where she meets JD again. Well, she doesn't meet him. She sees him again. And he, like, charms her with his, I'm a boy in high school who can quote one line of poetry. And so she's like, ooh, my panties. And he buys her a slushie. And in the musical, Heather Chandler has a great line later where she says, wave bye-bye to Red Dawn here and let's motor.
Nice.
At the end of that. And I always forget it's not in the movie.
He does absolutely look like a Red Dawn extra.
Yeah. So they go to the party. It's a college kid party. And they are 100% known to be high schoolers at this college kid party.
Yes. Including one guy going, it's so refreshing not have to ask you what your major is. As if that's like a difficult thing in his life that he has to be like, oh, what's your major? It's such a burden for me to ask you.
But do you remember his follow-up question?
I didn't write it down. What
He
was
says, it's such a relief not to ask what your major is. And then there's an awkward pause in conversation. And he goes, when you go to college, what do you think you're going to study?
it? I missed that.
Yeah.
I must have been taking a note.
It's so great.
This frat house set is also amazing because it's like just dark wood paneling. It looks like your uncle's basement, but it's the whole house, like wall to wall wood paneling, floor to ceiling. So it's very Hunting Lodge imposing.
It kind of reminds me of the frat party in Adventures in Babysitting, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a big, loud house party kind of situation.
Yeah. So they get separated, and Heather Chandler kind of...
The vibe that I got of this encounter was this dude is a pushy, gross boy, but Heather also wanted to fool around with this boy.
Yeah, I guess. To me, I don't know. It's one of the... Again, Andrew notices things in this movie that he loves. She's not wearing her scrunchie, so she doesn't have power.
Ah, okay. See, you've watched this movie like 6,500 times, and maybe if I watched it 6,500 times, the disgust would wear off.
Oh, so I'm just going to have to put you in a room, Alex Clockwork Orange style, and just repeat Heather's?
No, please don't do that. That would be bad. Because you keep pointing out things that are like really good, competent filmmaking, which is stuff that we don't often get to see on this show, and I feel like a little stupid for having missed them, but I was like, kind of, I don't know, it's just...
You wrote off Heather's, so you weren't clocking shit.
I mean, I certainly was not fully engaged because I wasn't enjoying the tone of the movie. For sure I was. But you're right. This guy is like a creepy slime ball who's like definitely pushing her past where she wants this encounter to go. But also, she like acquiesces to go into this gentleman's lap, and she bends over, and like her forehead would have been about mid-calf from where she was sitting. But he seems like it does this like she bends over and he leans back in joy, and it's like this is not framed well.
And
like
the camera pans
for the
up
thing
to the
that you're
MTV
trying to
picture.
make. Yeah, exactly. But he like she would have been like headbutting his knee or calf.
Yes. It's the same as in Carrie when what's her face starts going down on John Travolta and is vocalizing way too many words for what she's allegedly doing.
Meanwhile, Winona Ryder is with another boy who's way grosser, and she basically tells him off and then accidentally starts a fire because she throws a lit match out the window. Mm-hmm. And this trash can gets set on fire. And I'm like, oh, shit, like frat house fire is going to be the next part of the movie. But all it leads to is dramatic backlighting for when she and Heather
so
have an
dramatic.
argument. There's just a fire raging behind them.
There's a garbage can fire. How, like, so dramatic for the fight with your high school best friend. Like, when you're in high school and you tell the story of the fight you had with your best friend, this is how you picture it. It was in a dark alley, it was a dirty alley, and there was a garbage can fire next to me, and we were just shouting at each other.
Yeah, see, the movie you're describing doesn't feel like the movie that I watched. Like, I know the movie you're describing sounds hilarious to me, but it's not the one that we watched. Like, it's just not at all that.
They
like,
are one and the
what
same.
you describe is hilarious. This movie should be hilarious, but
so you just need to watch it with me so I can interpret the movie for you?
But, like, I don't know. It needs to be, like, 10% more ridiculous, I think, is my big issue. Because you're right, like, that is a very funny thing as you describe it, but when you look at the version of the movie, it's shot like the beginning of Batman when his parents get murdered.
Well,
like,
both produced by Denise Sinovi.
It's not funny. Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, Batman
But
Returns.
this is the scene in Batman whatever version, because they put this in every Batman, where he like watches his mom and dad get gunned down and there's a bunch of pearls spilling all over the alleyway.
Stupid pearls. Yeah, I don't know. And it's funny because when we watched Better Off Dead, I thought it was a little too ridiculous. Like, I was like, it's just a hair over the line for me.
I don't think that's an invalid point. Like, I think that's a valid.
No, I just think it's funny that like the movie that I love, you're like, it needs to be more ridiculous, and then the movie that you love, I'm like, it's a little too ridiculous.
Yes, I when you're gonna talk about serious shit like this, I need it to be hyper absurd. That's exactly what it is. I wanted to watch Better Off Dead, which to me is a perfect high school movie because it makes everything that happens in high school like feel the way that it feels to you when you're in high school, which is like, oh my god, everything's the end of the world. But
that's how I feel about Heathers.
Right, but I think the difference is in Better Off Dead, it's a happy kid movie, and Heathers is a sad kid movie. Like, and I'm not saying you were a sad kid. I was there.
I mean,
you were a happy kid for
I
the
had
most
depression,
part.
so.
Yeah. But I think that's the difference. Is like Heathers is the like much darker version of Better. Like in Better Off Dead, he doesn't want the guy to get killed. He wants him to get like launched into space and murdered. You know what I mean? And that's the difference in it landing for me. Is like that resonates with me. The part where like we should fucking poison her. I'm like, whoa, everybody be cool. Put that down.
And that's how you're supposed to react.
Because that's what's about to happen.
This is also where we get.
I wanted
another iconic line of "Lick it up, baby, lick it up." This movie's like so many quotes for me.
Yes.
Fuck me gently with a chainsaw. Lick it up, baby.
She and Christian Slater go to the aforementioned Bone Town after the college party is kind of a dud.
They play strip
and
croquet.
She explains what's
they
that?
They play strip croquet.
They do, yes. I'm not sure how that works, but it seems to work well for them.
Well, they make up their own rules anyways. So they're like, oh, you hit the ball. Now you have to take off a sock.
And then Christian Slater's like, hey, you know what we should do? We should poison Heather. And that's basically what they go do. They go to her house, and Christian Slater pours boat cleaner into a cup.
Then
he goes up to Heather's
drain
room.
Cleaner.
No, it says hull cleaner on the bottle, and it also says hull cleaner in the remake that we just watched. Boom, I just out Heathers
everything says liquid drain cleaner. No rust buildup.
You stop and Google hull cleaner, HULL cleaner Heathers right now.
I know what hull cleaner is.
Because it's in huge... I know, but it's in huge letters on the bottle that the girl knocks over in the remake. I guarantee you it's hull cleaner. I'm getting ready to rap horn the shit out of you.
Liquid drain... It says liquid drain cleaner.
I swear it says hull cleaner.
Yeah, everything... Heather's Wikipedia. JD serves Heather liquid he claims is hangover cure, but is actually drain cleaner.
My dude.
Hull clean. But it's a drain cleaner, apparently.
Hull! Well, it says hull like a boat.
I was like, girl, it's...
I'm still rap horning you. It's exactly what it says on the damn bottle. It says hull cleaner.
Literally every... If you say, what does Heather Chandler drink? It's blue drain cleaner.
I know, but I'm showing you a picture of Christian Slater holding hull clean. Look at it.
I know. However, I'm guessing it's some kind of... It's called... Like, the brand is Hull Clean.
Well... In any case, it says hull clean. I assumed it was boat cleaner. They take her a cup full of it and then basically trick her into drinking it by saying...
Winona Ryder mixes up orange juice and milk to give her to make her throw up because she's like, I'm going to get revenge for making her throw up. And Christian Slater's like, what if I give her drain cleaner? And she's like, well, that's murder. So let's stick with orange juice and milk.
Yes.
And she accidentally picks up the wrong cup, and he fully has a chance to let her know she picked up the wrong cup that she didn't want to give her. And he's like, nah, never mind.
Oh, so I missed the subterfuge there because I did not catch any sort of like Princess Bride shenanigans with the cup switch.
Yeah, he has a cup with a lid, which is a thing, and I don't know why there's cups with lids ever.
Well, they both put lids on the cups, but I thought she changed her mind and was like, all right, I'll pick up the boat cleaner because...
he has the cup with the boat cleaner with a lid on it. She has her cup with orange juice and milk with no lid on it. He says, I'm sorry, and they kiss, and when they're done, she doesn't look, and she grabs the cup with the lid, thinking she grabbed her concoction.
Okay. Also, orange juice and milk is not going to make anybody throw up, by the way.
It wouldn't? I feel like it's gross. That seems like a gross throw-up thing.
I mean, it would curdle, and you'd spit... It would probably make you ill if you like chugged it, but you would take a sip of it and spit it out and be like, this
you also
milk
would
is
smell
curdled.
drain cleaner and not drink it. So like, let's
Well, yes. Yeah,
let's suspend a little
because she
disbelief.
just downs this drain cleaner like it's... Yeah.
Yep.
She downs this drain cleaner like she's the anchor leg in a boat race, and she's just like, we're going for it, baby!
No, like it's the end
And
of a
just
flip cup race.
Just sculls this... Yeah, exactly. And then... immediately falls down dead through a glass coffee table that's in her bedroom inexplicably.
Oh, it's so extra. Her bedroom is so extra. But I also love her moment where she's like, you think I'm going to drink this drink because you call me chicken? Give me the cup. Like, she's like, oh, she thinks she's a big girl on campus. No.
Well, in the 80s, as we've seen in Back to the Future, if you call someone a chicken, they have to do literally whatever you challenge them to do.
Yeah. It was a lawless time. I just killed my best friend. Your worst enemy. Same difference. All these lines are so good. And so they're like, Veronica's freaking out. And JD is like, sees a copy of the bell jar next to her dead body. And he's like...
No, he sees a copy of the bell jar Cliff's Notes.
That's true.
And if you are getting depressed enough to off yourself by reading the Cliff's Notes of the bell jar, we have to have a different conversation.
So he's like, oh, she was reading the bell jar. Let's forge a suicide note. The cops will think it's a suicide. And they're like crafting it together. And he's like, it was a myriad. And she's like, she would never use myriad. She missed it on her vocab quiz. And there's this lovely, like, very banal conversation in the middle of forging a suicide note about whether or not myriad is an appropriate word to use. And, like, that's the kind of, like, absurdist nonsense that I love. Like, there's pressing matters at hand, guys.
I also really appreciated, for once, a movie using the word myriad correctly, which so rarely happens both in print and in spoken language.
What do you mean?
So as a word nerd, I enjoyed that. People always say a myriad of blank, and you don't need a or of because myriad means a great number of. So you just say myriad soldiers, not a myriad of soldiers.
Oh, no, I think they do say a and of. I think he says a myriad of problems.
But she corrects him and says she uses myriad correctly when she writes the note.
Okay.
Yeah. Cut to a bunch of teachers smoking cigarettes around a long boardroom table and trying to diagnose like what they should do when one of the most popular students in school has killed themselves because they don't expect it to be the popular kid. They expect it to be some, weird loner or whatever.
Was she a cheerleader? I'd give him half a day for a cheerleader killing herself.
The principal is very good.
Like,
by the way,
this
very
is one of my
good.
favorite scenes in the movie, and I was so glad to see they put it in the TV show. We'll get there, but
yeah.
It's all these teachers being like, she was she wasn't the cheerleader, she was the other one, and like, oh well, I don't know what we should do. Like, it's like we can't send the kids home early; their parents will hate that. And there's the hippy dippy guidance counselor teacher, who's like, we should all feel together,
and everyone immediately wants to throw her out of building.
Yes, exactly. So she gets her way, the guidance counselor, and she's like, I've made copies of the suicide note, and we can all read it together. Because, like, that's to me is like, so, it's like, it's part of the ridiculousness.
No, that part is perfectly ridiculous, but it needs to be, like, a giant version of it that she projects on the wall for me. Like, I need it to be just Like, it's just not ridiculous enough. Like, I need you to really hammer home that you know that this is ridiculous, because otherwise I don't read the tone right and I feel sad inside. I feel sad in
just
here.
watch it knowing the movie knows that everything's ridiculous. Like, just know that in your brain parts.
I wish that I could do that, but instead I'm sitting here going, do you know that this is ridiculous? Like, I'm offended that you're writing. Oh no, the joke is that they're reading the suicide note like an English paper.
Exactly. And so Winona Ryder, like, some kid says something about like, oh, she thought I was boring, but I'm not boring. She was dissatisfied. And so Winona Ryder starts laughing at how stupid her classmates are. And because laughing sounds like crying if you aren't looking, she quickly turns it into crying.
Yeah, and then runs away basically. Mm-hmm. So she and Christian Slater are watching news coverage at his dad's house, and his dad has these amazing movie villain fireplace things. They're golden cobras on either side of the marble fireplace,
It's great.
which is just like 80s villain beauty. Beautiful. The only thing that would make it more 80s is if the top of the cobra was a small glass like table for snorting cocaine.
Yes.
That is the only thing that would make it more perfect.
That seems great. So yeah, they're watching the media coverage, and Heather Duke is like pimping herself out to every news channel that will put her in front of a camera.
Who's Shannon Doherty, for those of you who have not seen this.
Yes. So then she sees her parents, and again we get got a motor if I'm going to make it to this funeral on time.
Yeah, and the parents are just like, yeah, okay, have fun. They don't even look up from the paper.
How was the first day back after school after Heather Chandler's suicide? Like,
Yes. See, all of those scenes were spot on in tone for me. I really liked everything with the parents. And then we smash cut to the funeral. What's up, Glenn Shattuck, says the pastor. How you doing, buddy? We'll
Good
see
friend
you
of the
in
show.
2 weeks, along with Winona. I don't think we've ever had two actors in the same movie on back-to-back episodes, so
I
that'll
don't
be
think
fun.
so. That is fun. So it's Heather Chandler's funeral, and Heather Duke has the best funeral outfit of anyone here. She's got this big, wide brim, like Kentucky Derby hat, and these like off the shoulder dress. It's great, and she has the best because everyone goes up to the casket to pray, and you hear their inner monologue, and they're naturally like makes sense to who's giving them. And Shannon Doherty's like, I felt bad for praying Heather Chandler would die every day, but I guess you were listening up there, and like skips away.
Yes, all of the praying stuff is fantastic. All of these kids, their insane prayers is really wonderful. The tone is just insane, gleefully insane.
Well, there is kind of like there's two sad, weird, like bizarre moments of this, like real life actual facts about this movie. So, the woman who played Heather Chandler, she had the line, "Did you eat a brain tumor for breakfast?" And she actually ended up dying of a brain tumor in 2001.
Weird.
I know, and the kid who kneels at the casket and says, "I hope this never happens to me," actually ended up committing suicide in 2000.
Jeez, that's even weirder.
Right? It's just two very weird.
Yeah, that's very strange. We go
So
outside from the funeral, and these two jocks are kind of like standing there, and then two nerds walk by, and the nerd steps on his foot, and the jock guy's like, "Hey, asshole, what are you doing?" And the nerd, instead of like kowtowing like he's supposed to, gives him the finger, and then the guy immediately starts beating him up in full view of everybody who has just literally walked out of a funeral. They're just watching this jock just pummel a tiny nerd boy.
yeah, making him say he likes dick. But
Yeah, it's very, very tasty homophobia right here. This is like the pinnacle of this movie's homophobia.
we also get the moment.
No,
It's
but
it's the climb.
there's more homophobia to come. It's like an amuse-bouche of a homophobia to come.
Exactly. There's also the lovely moment of Heather.
Like, the chef has prepared this one little bite of the homophobia so that later when we hit you with a fire hose amount of homophobia, it will be a little more palatable. So just one little bite here, and then we'll pick it up in like 20 minutes with just a full-on fire hose of homophobia. If you could just hang on a minute.
Yes. But there's a lovely moment where Heather McNamara like goes to the big, I don't know, dish or pool or whatever of holy water, and like puts her fingers in it, and then fixes her bangs with the holy water at the funeral.
Yes.
It's so brilliantly stupid.
It is really good. That is a great scene. Absolutely, it's a great scene. I also wanted to mention, this is just an aside, so I'm sorry to derail slightly here, but this director also directed the movie 40 Days and 40 Nights, which I can't imagine that
Really?
you've seen, but I
Oh,
have.
I've seen that movie.
And with Josh Hartnett?
Yeah, about not having sex for Lent.
Not having sex for Lent? Okay, well, that movie ends with the male character getting raped, like tied to a bed and forced to have sex with a woman. It's kind of a nightmare of a movie for a number of reasons, but it also has the funniest scene I've ever seen in a movie that is about two people going to bed together, wherein Josh Hartnett picks up a bouquet of flowers and goes to the woman's house and proceeds to carefully blow a single flower petal around her body, which is just for her like the greatest experience. She doesn't ever need to know the touch of a man because now she's had the single flower petal, and it is all going to pale in comparison.
We call
to
that
single flower
becoming
petal.
a lesbian.
But so anyway, this guy has directed a bunch of very weird movies. Is all that the point of that is, I guess.
His thing is weird stuff. So then we get to it's Heather McNamara and Veronica on a quote unquote date with Kurt and Ram, the two football players. And this is where we get the instance of it's date rape happening in the background of the shot that no one talks about and it isn't really acknowledged.
Yeah, it's really creepy and disturbing.
It's Winona Ryder said it's like one of her favorite parts of the movie because it's so disturbing, and once it's not talked about, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Oh, I don't know how you would possibly miss this. It's very clearly a man trying to overpower a woman in the background, and she's fighting him off constantly.
Yeah, but it's
Like, people miss that?
yeah,
What?
because it's not in the foreground. The thing is, it's mostly the focus on Veronica and Kurt, I think, and then he passes out, and then JD and her have a conversation. So the focus is never really on the background. They're hidden back there.
I guess. I mean, I get the point that she's saying is, like, this stuff happens right around other people and nobody notices, and she's right. But, yeah, it's really disturbing to watch her try to fight off this monster behind her.
Mm-hmm.
So, flash forward to school the next day, and Kurt claims to have slept with Veronica with Ram. They, like, together hooked up with her, even though the other girl was there, and nobody seems to think that that's weird, but
No.
that's beside the point. So,
It's one of the best songs in the musical.
along with Christian Slater, they have a song about we double teamed you.
Yes. So the song. So okay.
Jesus.
So before the song before it, when it's the two dudes trying to sleep with sleep with Veronica, and she doesn't want any part of it. It's called Blue, and the song is "You Make My Balls So Blue," and it's like a blues number about their balls. So the next number is they had a big sword fight in her mouth. Yes, she allowed it, and it's like the whole school turning on her for calling her a slut.
Well, I quit the podcast. You can put this episode out. I retire officially forever. Goodbye.
It's a fun musical.
So Christian Slater's like, all right, we'll tell them to meet you at dawn, and we'll scare them.
Do you speak German? Because I need to lie to you in German.
Again, with characters in movies doing stuff that is like, you have to be so stupid. He's like, there's special bullets that don't penetrate the skin except to put in a tranquilizer. It's not a real bullet.
Well, he also calls them "I'm lying" bullets.
Oh, he says I'm lying in
Ich
German?
lüge is "I'm lying" in German. So that's why he asks her if she speaks German.
Okay.
So he can lie to her.
So I don't speak German. I didn't.
Neither
know
do
that
I,
That's what
but
it
I
was.
just know that.
I thought he was just saying nonsense.
No, I'm lying.
Well, you've
bullets.
seen the movie 650 times. Well, she gets lied to about these bullets, and then tells these two boys to meet her at dawn. And then when they show up, he has this bag of, it's just like a homophobia starter kit. It's a gay porn magazine and a postcard of
Joan Crawford.
Thank you. I was like, it's not Joan London, Joan, and like lube and like whatever else is in there.
It's a candy dish, the gay porn, mineral water, and the Joan Crawford postcard.
Yes, mineral water being the key one because, as Christian Slater says, it's the Midwest, so anybody who doesn't drink beer is obviously a gay person. He doesn't say gay person. So the two boys show up and start to take their clothes off, and then they shoot them. They just flat out murder the boys. One of them gets away for a little bit, and Christian Slater chases him back to the center, which like, hey bro, why are you running in a goddamn circle if you're running for your life?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
And she kills him. She kills him too. And then they're both dead. And then the police come, who are smoking a joint in the woods nearby.
Stoned
and
F.
then Christian Slater and Winona Ryder hide by pretending to be making out in the front seat of the car with their clothes off. So the cop just lets them go. And because the other one is like, this is an open and shut queer-mosexual case, right? We got a Joan Crawford postcard here, so and a candidate, so clearly they're gay, and we can just they're clearly a murder thing for gay people. I don't know.
So Veronica is very like clearly at her breaking point. Like she can't handle all the murder that she clearly is a party to. So she burns herself with a cigarette lighter, and then Christian Slater uses that burn to light his own cigarette.
Yes, it's pretty great.
And right after, we get one of my favorite lines in the movie, where a girl runs up to Heather Duke and McNamara and goes, "Did you hear? School's canceled today because Kurt and Ram killed themselves in a repressed homosexual suicide pact." And Heather Duke just goes, "No way."
I also like that when we cut to the funeral, they're in the caskets in suits and their football helmets.
Oh, it's brilliant. And footballs. Oh, it's perfect.
Yes, and footballs. And then there's actually like kind of a nice moment where the dad is like, I accept my son for. It doesn't matter to me that my son was gay. Like I love my gay son, and it's played for laughs because it's kind of a funny line to bellow out at a funeral. And so while Christian Slater and Winona are like tittering over this, and I kind of am like, oh, that was funny. Then we immediately cut to the little sister with just tears running down her face, which is what I'm talking about with this movie and tone, like in a perfect little.
Christian Slater also makes a.
I love my gay son.
So he says, "I love my dead gay son," and Christian Slater leans over to Winona Ryder and says, "I wonder how much he'd love him if his limp wrist had a pulse." Which, like, that is the point. It's really easy to say that you love your gay son when he's not here and you have to do so. Like, there's no, like, backing to your claim. It's really easy to say that. Like, that's part of the whole, like, you die the perfect version. Like, everyone can support everything you do because da-da-da.
Yeah, I totally fine. I just didn't need to cut to the little sister, just tears running down her face about her dead brother. That hits really, like, that hits close to home for people. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the tone shift is like, oh yeah, your point is funny, and this is a oh no, I'm sad again.
It's so they could show
Winona
Ryder could be like, oh, I'm a monster.
Yeah, no, I get the character growth. I get it. It just also made me sad as a watcher.
And then we get another iconic line, "My teen angst bullshit has the body count."
Yes, she's constantly writing in her diary, and there's some
with
really
a
great
monocle.
lines
And
throughout.
it's so great.
Yeah, the monocle is pretty absurd.
Mm-hmm. It's like reading. It's like reading glasses, but a reading monocle. And this is where we find out that the hippy dippy teacher is actually a huge hypocrite, because she's like, "We're all gonna feel together. Oh, cameras! I was so unready for this. Kids, get in line and do your thing."
Yeah, she's very clearly an attention-seeking crazy person. And they're listening to this on the radio at Christian Slater's house, and Christian Slater, like, his dad comes and is a big jerk. And then he pulls out a gun and shoots the radio, at which point Veronica rightfully is like, all right, I'm out of here. And then he assaults her. Like, he just full-on assaults her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Garbage monster status.
So because she leaves, he needs a new woman to...
Well, there's also another interesting, like, comedic line that I find where his dad is obviously an asshole, and he leaves, and then Veronica says, do you like your father? And he says, "I've never given the matter much thought." And, like, I don't know, to me that's another one of those, like, that's another one, like, razor black comedy line of, like, oh, that's right. And then when it talks about, do you like your parents? Or, like, it's just like, oh, he does.
Yeah, that one flew right over. I just thought it was just sad, lonely boy who nobody loves, which is why he needs to, why he's a murderer.
A little bit. And so this is where Heather Duke takes the scrunchie.
Because I got the...
Go ahead.
I got the impression that Christian Slater's character has done this before.
Yes, you're supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, so Shannon Doherty has taken the mantle of Top Heather. She's got the red scrunchie. And Christian Slater needs, now that Winona has left him, needs another woman to influence to help carry out his dastardly plans. So he blackmails her into taking part in this scheme that he's come up with, which is to get the whole school to sign a petition that we will later learn, is actually a group murder pact.
Suicide pact.
Suicide pact. A group suicide pact.
So she thinks it's a petition to get this band called Big Fun, who plays the hit song Teenage Suicide, Don't Do It. It's just so stupid. I love it. To come play at their school. Like, it's the #1 song in the country. Veronica's trying to escape the Heathers and her old self, and so she invites her friend Betty Finn over to play croquet like they used to when they were kids. And then this is where we get a really ham-fisted metaphor for the movie, where there's the whole moment of she hits the croquet ball, and Betty's like, the only way to win is to take me out. And Veronica's like, it's not my style. I'm like, and we get the theme of the movie.
Mm-hmm. And then Betty says to her, well, nice guys finish last. You don't want to do that.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. Martha Dunstock attempts suicide. She writes a note to her chest.
Yeah, it's really... This scene is, like, unbelievably realistic to me. This girl is sitting alone in the gym, and she's drinking a soda, and then she takes the lid off and goes to drink out of the cup instead of using a straw, and she pours it all over herself, and she's, like... this actress does an awesome job at this part because
she's brilliant.
You've clearly seen her face, like, yeah, because this actress is like, well, clearly I'm worthless. Fuck this. And she pins a note to her chest and walks into traffic. And they're cutting back and forth between this suicide attempt and the news coverage of the other suicide attempts. And, you know, Winona is talking to her, talking to her parents about, you know, this stuff that's going on. But, like, to me, and I just forgot her name again, but the character who's trying to commit suicide here is
Martha.
The only sympathetic character in this whole movie. Yeah, Martha. The only sympathetic character in this whole movie to me that, like, I got introduced to her in a shitty way, and I want her to have a better situation, and then I'm like, oh my God, no, Martha, don't do this. Life gets better, I swear.
She gets, again, in the musical, she gets a really amazing, like, midnight hour song that I always forget about until I'm seeing the show. Because in the musical, Martha was Veronica's friend that she dumped to become a Heather, not this Betty random character. So she's more important, and she sings a song about killing herself, and then like that's how, like, it's like done as this beautiful, like, song moment in the show where she tries to jump off a bridge, and then they're like, oh no, she just has some broken bones because she's fat and stupid.
Yeah. Later we see her in, like, an electric scooter with a neck brace and a leg cast. Veronica and the other Heather are listening to
Duke.
Hot Probs Radio, pardon me. And this is one of the weirdest things in the movie. They keep showing this DJ, and there's just absolutely no reason for it.
Nope, not at all.
Like, there's no visual gag in the radio studio. This isn't a famous actor in a cameo. There's, like, literally no reason to be showing this guy in the studio. But they keep cutting to that, and then on the phone is the other Heather who's like,
McNamara.
My life is really hard. I don't know what I'm doing. Like any teenager, really.
Yeah.
But, you know, life is challenging, and I'm kind of lost.
Again, another great song in the musical.
And then McNamara Heather tries to kill herself after, word about her talking about this gets around in school, and Veronica actually saves her from trying to kill herself with pills in the bathroom.
Yellow pills, no less.
Oh, I thought they were more orange. Maybe the Netflix rip is not colored as well.
No. I'm pretty sure Heather McNamara even tries to kill herself with yellow pills.
That would make more sense.
If you were happy all the time, you wouldn't be a person. You'd be a game show host.
Speaking of game show hosts, the principal in this movie reminds me of Richard Dawson in The Running Man.
Yes.
In terms of, like, crazy over-the-topness, yeah. So this big plan is unfolding with those signatures where, you know, Shannon Doherty has been lying to her classmates, and she tells every single person it's a different thing that they're going to see. This is petition for this, petition for that, like whatever anybody needs to hear. To which Veronica is like, well, that's kind of psychotic behavior. Like,
you're lying
you shouldn't
to
be
everybody.
doing that. And and she just doesn't care. But does she know what the plan is? Because it doesn't seem like she knows what the plan is.
Because she just knows she's lying to everyone. And then Heather Duke says it's JD's idea to get the signatures anyway. So Veronica's like, oh, literally nothing good can come of this if this is his idea. So, like, burn it, salt it, and move on with your life, girl.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely, get out of there. He's a psycho.
And Heather Duke says, why are you pulling on my dick? Which again, great lines. Great lines. So Veronica goes home, and her parents are like, your friend JD came by and said you might try and kill yourself, so we should keep you away from sharp objects and, you know, drain cleaner and prescription medication. And she just walks up to her room, and they don't try and stop her or ask her any questions or anything specific. It's the ultimate like end cap of the shitty don't give a shit parents. So she goes to her room and we go into another dream sequence where it's the perfect lighting and angles and camera work for this dream sequence to feel very trippy and like otherworldly.
Right.
Where they kill Heather Duke and they're at her funeral, and then Heather Chandler shows up and is like, "Oh, I'm dead now," and I blah, Veronica. And so Veronica wakes up and realizes JD's gonna try and kill her. So she's like, "I gotta think of something." And JD comes in her window, like in the dream, and Veronica has hanged herself.
Yes. And he reveals the entire plan to her in the dream?
No, this isn't the dream. This is him actually there.
He reveals his entire plan to her while she is supposedly dead, and then leaves when he hears the mom yelling for dinner, and then her mom walks in the room and sees her hanging there, and then she lets her mom go on for like a little while before being like, "JK, I'm not dead."
I mean,
if
the mom was that shitty.
Grisly.
If the mom's that shitty.
I know, but still.
And she goes, "Hey, Mom, why so tense?"
So it turns out Slater has made everybody sign a thing that's like, the world is shit and we're all going to kill ourselves by explosion, and he's going to rig up the gym to blow up with the explosives that his dad's company uses, because his dad is a demolition guy.
Mm-hmm. And we get the end cap of the clueless hippie guidance counselor, because Veronica goes into school.
This is the best line in the whole movie.
And she goes, "Oh, Veronica, I thought JD said you killed yourself." And she's like, "No, where is JD?" And she's like, "Veronica, stop and talk to me. Whether or not to kill yourself is the most important decision a teenager can make."
It's the best line in the movie.
It's just the pinnacle of high school guidance counselors, at least when I was in high school, where it was like, I want to go to, like, my friend Carrie literally went to the guidance counselor and was like, "Okay, well, I want to go to, like, kind of a smaller school with an agricultural program that isn't in a big city." And they were like, "Have you thought about Pitt?" And she was like, "Well, let's take a look at my parameters that I just gave you." And no, I didn't. There was like, "Here's the pamphlet. Go to Temple. Go to Pitt."
So Slater hides this bomb because a pep rally is coming. He's hiding a bomb in the gym, and then he's down in the boiler room. Winona goes down and confronts him and pulls a gun on him, and he manages to like get her off her game for a minute, and then knocks the gun out of her hands and takes it from her and goes back to his dastardly plan. And there's like a pretty long sequence of like getting to the final fight where they're gonna fight, obviously, to do this. The principal's giving this like big speech upstairs, like, "Our school's the best, don't kill yourselves." And then Slater is like frantically wiring up a bomb 10 feet below him.
And it sort of culminates with Christian Slater gives Veronica the finger, and she shoots off his middle finger. It's so good.
Yes, although the physics of this scene, that is a literal impossibility that he wouldn't have taken one in the shoulder afterwards, but it does look very cool.
Yes. So she's like, "I've won." She disarms the bomb, and she leaves.
No, he disarms the bomb.
Stabs it.
He stabs the bomb with a knife for no reason, and then it stops it.
Well, I think he gets shot, and so he I don't think he like purposefully stabbed it. I think he just ended up stabbing it, and it stopped it.
Well, whatever. The bomb doesn't go off, and instead of like taking it or like calling attention to this, she just slowly walks out of the school like in a daze and lights a cigarette. And I want to be like, "Hey, I know that you've stopped the immediate danger, but step 2 is running into that gym going, 'There's a bomb, everybody get out, there's a bomb, get out.'" Like, that is step 2 of this plan, because just because it's stopped temporarily doesn't mean it's over. Save the people, Winona.
So she goes outside.
Pretend it's Will. Pretend it's pretend it's a whole gym of Wills, okay? You need to save them.
So she goes outside, and then Christian Slater pops up behind her, and he's like, bloody, dying, smoky mess. And he's like,
strap the bomb to his chest.
Yeah, he's like, "Well, someone's got to blow up." And so she puts the cigarette in her mouth and just holds it there. And he detonates it unreasonably close to her without hurting her.
Yes.
But when the smoke clears, her cigarette's been burned down completely. And this is the Bugs Bunny moment where her hair's all like blown back and her face is covered in soot. It's
exactly.
great. So she goes inside and sees Heather Duke.
And
What?
she takes a drag off the cigarette too as like a final punctuation of that moment, which is really great.
Yeah. And Heather Duke sees her and goes, "You look like hell." And Veronica goes, "I just got back," and rips the red scrunchie out of her hair. Goes, "There's a new sheriff in town," which is so great. And she sees Martha Dunstock and she's like, "Let's be best friends." And Martha's like, "That sounds wonderful."
And that's a nice moment. The movie ends on a very nice moment. That is what I can say most positively.
Do you want to hear how it was supposed to end originally?
Sure.
The gym, he does blow up the gym with everybody inside, and we cut to heaven where all the cliques are mingling together in harmony and peace, and Martha Dunstock is singing a song like she's a cabaret singer.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But
this movie would not be a cult favorite if that's how it ended.
I agree. Although I don't know, there's something interesting about that idea, but
yeah, it's brave and bold for sure. Do you have? I know you have final thoughts, so go ahead.
I just love this movie. It's so good. It's so quotable. It's so good. It's great. The musical is also amazing if you get the chance to watch the musical.
I think you should watch Mean Girls or Better Off Dead.
Mean Girls is nothing compared to this movie. Like, they are so indifferent. I people like to say that like it's like Heather's is the 80s Mean Girls, but I think they're so radically different that it's hard to compare them.
I mean, Mean Girls is like a hyper absurd high school comedy about how evil high school kids are.
I don't know. To me, Heather's has...
This one is darker than Mean Girls.
Heather's has like the dark grit murder like it's a little tense at times. But and like Mean Girls always has that like Tina Fey wink to it that this doesn't have. Like they're both, I mean, if it's surface...
Yes, and that is why
surface
it's a
level,
much more enjoyable movie.
They're different movies. I like them both for different reasons. I like Heather's a little better. I like the grit. I like the nth level of silliness that it takes it to.
I found this very depressing. I'm sorry. I know you love it. Like I said, I found this movie legitimately depressing to watch. I'm sorry.
But now that you've heard everything I said about it, that you're like, oh, I didn't think that. I didn't catch that. Watch it again.
I respect the filmmaking, but this is the kind of movie that I watch and I want to take a shower afterwards. Like, I just don't like hanging out with these characters that have no like very little redeeming quality to them. This movie is entirely shades of gray. There's no clear good person or bad person in this.
I like those
and
sometimes.
While that's true to life. Yeah, no, people like that. And like, while that's true to life, I want like a much more clear good guy and bad guy scenario. I don't care if the bad guys win sometimes. Like, this is my big beef with the Marvel movies. Like, there should be a Marvel movie where the good guy loses. I'm sorry. Like, that's the thing that should happen. There should be a Captain America where like the Red Skull wins and they're like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Like, I don't have that problem.
TV
but
show,
this
apparently.
movie is, yeah. But who's got time?
I have friends who do, and I'm like, look, Marvel, you're already getting about 10 to 16 hours a year in movies. I'm not giving you an additional 16 to 22 hours of my life for your stupid show.
Yeah, people are like, oh, well, you got to watch Jessica Jones, Daredevil, The Defenders. And
No, those are different.
Absolutely not.
No, the Netflix shows are a different animal completely.
Not.
I'm talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fully takes place in the same universe.
The Netflix shows too.
No, because you don't have to watch Jessica Jones and Defenders to understand the Marvel like cinematic universe stuff. They're technically separate and not mentioned.
They're all tied in.
Yes, but like they're
all tied in.
They're
they
not
mention the incident in New York.
Yeah, but they're not like they don't like bring the Netflix stuff into the movies. It's a very weird delineation they have.
Yeah,
but then they're like, oh well. They spent a whole season of, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. dealing with the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually Hydra the whole time. And I was like, okay, I'm not watching that. Like, I need to know what happened without watching 22 hours of it.
Right. Yeah, that's too much. You can keep it, Marvel. Yeah, I would say you should watch Better Off Dead if you need an 80s movie about the high school experience, or Mean Girls if you want to go more current, even though Andrew doesn't think that's the same thing. But I like both those movies. And they don't make me want to take a sad shower. So that is what I will say.
I would much rather watch Heathers than either of those.
I'm sorry. I hope we can still be brothers.
We'll see.
Thank you guys for listening. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry this was such a weird episode. But I just want to once more say thank you to Sophie for the awesome bingo game. Please tweet us if you play along, and although this is probably not a good episode to play it on, but if you do play, send us a picture. We'd love to see it. You can get us at Dissecting the 80s on Facebook or at Dissect the 80s on Twitter. You can always write us an email at dissectingthe80s@gmail.com or call us at 856-DISSECT. Lastly, please rate and review the show wherever you get it. iTunes helps us the most, but we'll take what we can get. And if you do review it somewhere than iTunes, might be harder for us to find. So if you've reviewed us somewhere else and you're like, why aren't they reading my review? Send it to us, and I'll make sure we do that. But anybody who reviews the show, we read it on the air. So please review the show, and we will read it, and you can hear it. We will be back in 2 weeks for the continuation of this month, which is, I guess, Winona Ryder and Glenn Shattuck's month. I think this movie turns 30 this year, I believe, and as does our next movie, which is...
Beetlejuice.
What?
Beetlejuice.
No, they have to hear you say it. You have to say it into the microphone.
Beetlejuice. Hey, it's going.
Oh, shit. Thank you again so much for listening to the show. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until March 26th.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production. Ow!